Call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here and just remind everybody this is a small room, and talking from even the back rows disturbs folks in front of you and vice versa. Make sure your cell phones are turned off. And with that, let's pledge allegiance to. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. We have Deacon Bobby Stafford to give our invocation. Proud to have you, Bobby.
Our Father God in heaven, we humbly give thanks to you for this day. Thanking you for the many blessings received, and we thank you for your presence in our lives. As we go through this evening, this gathering, we ask your Holy Spirit to guide, lead, and direct. That your wisdom will rest upon the hearts and minds of these your people as we venture into the days ahead of the future of 2020. Lead and guide us, we pray, and keep us in your care. We give thanks to you once again in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Kim, announcements, I have none. I do have, go on to our proclamations. Proclamation honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. inspired millions of Americans to participate in nonviolent protest to support the ideals of equality for all, and was a motivating force behind the civil rights movement that had its goal the creation of a society tolerant of all races, cultures, and nationalities. Whereas the ideals of Dr. King and of Black Mountain's commitment to human rights are worthy of reflection and serve as a reminder that improving the quality of life for all members of our community is a responsibility of every citizen. Whereas the celebration of Dr. King's birthday is intended as a time for all Americans to reaffirm their commitment to the basic principles that underlie our Constitution, equality, and justice for all. Whereas the town of Black Mountain encourages all citizens to rededicate themselves to the principles of respect for human rights and freedom of belief in nonviolence, and of commitment to improving our community through community service and volunteerism. Now, therefore, I, Don Collins, Mayor of the town of Black Mountain, on behalf of the Board of Alderman and the citizens of Black Mountain, wish to honor and do hereby proclaim Monday, January 13th, 2020 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The town of Black Mountain will honor Dr. King at the 30th Annual Swannoa Valley Prayer Breakfast, Saturday, February 8th, 9 a.m. at Camp Dorothy Walls. Black Mountain hosted by the local Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Corporation, and each year scholarships are awarded to local recipients who have applied and make it through the selection process. The challenge that the scholarship propose include critical thinking and compassionate actions. Signed this day, 13th day of January, 2020. All righty. We have Rob Austin from our police department would like to make a recognition of some of our finest.
Yes, sir. Sergeant King. Thank you, Mayor and Council, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sergeant Chris Kuhn, one of our patrol watch commanders, and we've got a life-saving recognition award for a couple of officers that work under both myself and Sergeant Kuhn, and it's a great honor to do this. And I give you just a small synopsis of what we're talking about as a life-saving recognition. We've got an incident that occurred with a suicidal female threatening to jump off of a bridge here in Black Mountain, over off of Blue Ridge Road. It was early one morning, pre-dawn hours. It's about 5 o'clock in the morning. Officer Kane arrived to find, this female and passing motorists and family trying to get her back on the bridge. She was actually on the opposite side of the guardrail, just barely hanging on. Officer Kane negotiates and is talking with this female, trying to keep her attention. And about this time, Officer McDonald responds, and I'd like to have both of them step up here as I talk about this. So both officers responded, both officers got there on scene, and they realized that while Officer Kane here is talking to the subject, she's having a mental health crisis, standing on the opposite side of the bridge rail. So she's getting ready to fall into the Swannanoa River, and it's about 20 degrees outside. I'm assuming it was really cold December morning. Once they were in position, McDonald used the shadow of a vehicle that was driving by the mentally ill female and was able to maneuver himself into position. Both officers, using their teamwork and had pre-discussed, were able to get close enough at that point. Keith distracted her while John was able to grab a hold of her to keep her from falling. And then both of them were able to retrieve this lady and bring her back across the guardrail and being able to get her into safety. When I first learned about this, I was pretty proud of these guys. And I wish I could show you the video of it because it's pretty astounding and pretty amazing how quickly things and the decisions that they made. And it's an honor for me to present these two officers with the life-saving award.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Okay, citizen comments. Marilyn?
Marilyn Spansky, 516 Laurel Avenue, here in Black Mountain. Good evening. It's from my growing edge tonight that I speak about something that matters so much to me and something that has such strong emotion attached to it. I've stood before you 3 times already here at town meetings addressing the issue of town elections. Standing here this very moment, I see that 4 of the 5 alderman seats are occupied or reserved for individuals who were not elected to be in them. The 2019 elections were canceled. How? Through a legal means. A change in the town's charter requested by our board, submitted by a member of the Buncombe County delegation to the General Assembly who doesn't represent our town, and passed by the Assembly. It extended the terms of those elected in 2015 and 2017 for a year until the designated upcoming even year elections. That applies now to 2 aldermen now serving, but in Article 2, Section 4 of our town charter is written the following: all powers of the town shall be vested in a board of aldermen of 5 members and a mayor, nominated and elected from the town at large. Those words remain intact in the new law. Given an extension of term, is not the same as election. Does using a legal means to grant a free year automatically make the outcome legal? What about the 2 members who, by circumstance, had been appointed to seats vacated since the 2015 election? They were not elected. This is a democracy. Democracy is government by the people or by their elected representatives. People choose their leaders. The leaders don't choose themselves. So why did the board pass a resolution to change our elections to even years? The key reason cited the 2018 September and October town meetings was cost. Ultimately, however, shared election cost, originally expected to be more because Asheville switched to even year elections by legislative mandate, actually flip-flopped. Our costs were going to be less than the costs for our last election in 2017. I do want to note here that there was a solitary voice of opposition amongst our aldermen to even year elections who spoke at each of the September, October, November 2018 town meetings, expressing their conclusions after having clearly given serious and extensive thought to the topic from many angles. They had concluded it was wrong to ask for the change just because it's politically expedient or it's a cost savings, adding it's a cost savings either way. Another reason cited at those town meetings was a need or desire to follow the path that the other municipalities were taking. Can't we think for ourselves? Weaverville did. In fact, it had passed a resolution to stay on the odd number
Thank you,
years.
ma'am. All right, Mr. Sloan.
Hi, my name's John Sloan, 115 3rd Avenue. I wanted to say something a little more banal, which is to encourage the board to speak into the microphones. When you speak to, when you're having a conversation and you turn and talk to one another, you really can't hear it out here, and the microphones do work if you direct your voice to them, and I know it's not just me that has struggled to hear what is being said. So I appreciate your attention. People that come out to these public hearings, I think, are entitled to not have to strain to hear what's being said. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more citizens signed up to comment, communication from boards, commissions, and agencies. First one is Library Board.
The president of the board apologized for not being here tonight, so he left me with this job. As most of you know, the White Mountain Library Board is basically a maintenance committee for the building which we own, in which the county operates the library itself. They hire the staff and they buy the books. However, we keep the building up. We've got a new librarian, if nobody of you met her. Her name's Melissa Presley. She's a young fireball, lots of ideas. If you walk inside the library, you'll see that. All of a sudden, we've got splashes of color, rearrangements, better lighting. The children's reading area lit up a little bit better. Over on the senior citizen side, they had us put in better lighting so I could see to read. And a bunch of other things have happened. Inside, there's been some painting of accent walls. The old 60s paneling in the children's room has been covered with sheetrock and painted so it's a brighter space. Outside, the board has arranged to have basically an overgrowth of landscaping over the last few years. It had turned into a jungle. You'll notice when you go by now, the ground is clear in a lot of places where there's more growth than you can count. Mm-hmm. There's a new sign. The patio outside the education room, that used to be rock. It was getting very rough and dangerous. That's been replaced. And the building's been painted. That's 1 year. For us, that's a lot going on. We haven't had much to report on in the last few years because the building was remodeled several years ago and is in good shape. Well, that wore off, so this year a lot's been done to get your building back in shape. It is your building, and we hope to keep it going another 50 years. That building was built 51 years ago now, and it's holding up.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, United States Census, Chuck McGraw.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for this opportunity to present to you tonight. My name is Chuck McGowan, and I am a partnership specialist for the United States Census Bureau. My job as a partnership specialist is to initially educate folks about the mission of the census, which is to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. Once that mission is complete, really what I'm trying to do is encourage folks to actually respond once the count begins in the spring. Probably most people know the history of the census started back in 1790. It's actually a constitutional requirement that the count occurs every 10 years. And this next one will occur in the spring of 2020. What people don't know is how high the stakes can be. First of all, the results of the census are used for congressional apportionment. So 435 seats. Currently, North Carolina has 13 of those, and we believe that if we hit our state goal of 82%, that we can pick up at least one more seat. We know that drawing of those congressional districts has been a hot topic in North Carolina lately. One more seat would give us a lot more flexibility to make sure that everyone is represented properly. What people usually know about is the dollars that are associated with the census. So 675 billion federal dollars are given out based on the results of the census. And for good or bad, depending on how we do this count, we're stuck with those numbers for the next 10 years until 2030. So it's incredibly important that we do a good job this year of making sure we get a good count. Again, those $675 billion, that's annually. So over 10 years, you're looking at dollars in the trillions. Talk about some specific 2020 dates. 95% of folks in the United States will be counted by getting an invitation in the mail. Those invitations will go out the second week of March, with the first lot going out on March 12th. And when you receive that invitation, what we're hoping that you'll do, it'll have a code specific to your address, and we're hoping that folks will go online to fill out that census form. You'll actually have the option for the first time ever of going online, filling it out by phone, which you'll talk to an actual human being, or waiting for a paper copy. If you fill it out online, that's the quickest way to get it done, and then no one will come to your house. Ultimately, over the next few weeks, we'll send you several more documents to include a postcard, another invitation, and finally, if you don't respond, we'll actually send a paper copy, which we know some folks will actually want to use to fill out, kind of the old school method. After that, what you can expect is someone is going to come to your house to enumerate you. All right, we know that that's an incredibly difficult process, and we need people to do that. So the enumeration piece, where we send human beings to your house, kind of brings two things to mind that you need to think about. First, who are the folks that are not going to respond initially? They fall into categories typically that the Census Bureau refers to as hard to count. Typically, those folks, are communities like children from 0 to 5. A lot of times, folks just don't think that they matter. They don't pay taxes. They don't do anything else. They don't drive on the road, so folks tend to not count them. We're really trying to educate folks that children 0 to 5 matter. Different folks that fall into minority categories, whether it's Latinx or African American communities, sometimes veteran communities that tend to be less trustful of the government. Those people count. Everyone counts. So part of the education piece is making sure that we find the trusted voices for those communities, the ones specific to your community, so that we can convince those trusted voices, and then they can convince their constituents that the census is a safe thing to take. Once we realize that certain folks have not done the census and we're sending out enumerators, well, now we come to one of the most important issues, and that is that we need people to apply to work for the census. We expect in Buncombe County and Black Mountain specifically to hit that goal of 80%. Most of the tracts that surround Black Mountain, there's 3 of them, we expect anywhere from 82 to 84% of folks, and that's based on previous censuses and the American Community Survey. We expect you to hit that goal, but unfortunately we still have to focus on the 16 to 18% of folks, sometimes 20, that are not going to self-respond, and we need people to go enumerate them. So there's a big push right now for the census. Most of our media assets are going towards recruiting. We need people to apply for the census. The job process takes a long time. We're the government, so we're going to make sure we do a great background check, and that background check could take anywhere up to 8 weeks. So for Western North Carolina, which is the western 25 counties, we need 19,000 applicants And right now, quite honestly, we're sitting under 7,000. We should be probably closer to 14. So of those 19,000, we expect probably around 15,000 folks to get jobs. Or I'm sorry, about 5,000 folks initially to do the enumeration piece. But we know historically, while the Western North Carolina counties have done very well at getting those initial self-responders, what we don't do well at is keeping people in those enumeration jobs. We have historically a lot of turnover, and once somebody turns over and decides that they're not going to continue to enumerate, we've got to have someone who's already complete with their background check that can jump right in. So that piece of recruiting is extremely important. So again, kind of in summary, the 2020 census is coming in the spring. The goal is to count every single person, and 95% of folks will be counted at their address. Some other people will be counted at group quarters. That will be done for dorm facilities, assisted living facilities, things like that. That will start taking place here in the early spring. And ladies and gentlemen, if there's no questions, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Fire Department Annual Report, Chief Scotty Harris.
Mayor, council members, manager, thank you for this opportunity tonight. First of all, let me say I appreciate the support that I've received since I've been here. I've only been here about a little over 7 months now, so it's been great working with all the department heads as well as council and the manager. So I appreciate that opportunity to stand before you tonight. In your booklets, the first couple pages are some highlights, bullet points that we'll go over, but you're welcome to follow along with the slides as well. A little bit about the department itself, 21 full-time members, 11 part-time staff, and 20 volunteers. On a shift, we're working 6 full-timers and a part-timer, protecting 54 square miles with a current ISO rating of 3. The lower the number, the better the rating. That rating was achieved in February of 2013. Again, I started here in May, and I appreciate the opportunity to be up here with you tonight. So, together on the roster, there's 798 years of service of all of our staff combined. On the call volume, we've run a total of 1,566 calls inside the city limits, 757 in our rural area, which is considered our East Buncombe district, for a total of 22,323 calls, with 55% of that being medical responses to 1,294. The fire loss, there was a potential exposure of $38,637,000 with a loss sustained of $391,100. That's due to the service provided. Our guys have done an excellent job of making a quick response. Firefighter injuries or civilians, prior to my arrival, there were 2 civilian injuries in fire involving some gasoline and fuel mixtures that resulted in 2 civilian injuries. On the fire prevention side, business inspections, 726, residential was 54, and prevention activities is 115 for a total of 895. What you're seeing on the screen here is our average firefighter as a daily uniform. This gentleman weighs 156 pounds. As you can see the difference to carrying a extinguisher, his other gear with a high-rise pack, and weight changes to 317 pounds. That's what they go in if we're going to Black Mountain Center, Hampton Inn, or anywhere else. That's going to be the drastic change that you're going to see and why our physical fitness is important of the job that they do. In that, just with the turnout gear and the air pack alone, you're looking at approximately $5,000 to outfit an employee. That's not counting the other tools and equipment that the employee carries in with them. So again, we appreciate the support of what it takes to do our mission. Personnel training hours. On calls, we've run 19,814 calls. Training personnel hours, 10,000, with extra duty hours being 468, for a total of 30,285 personnel hours dedicated to that aspect. One of the things that we have accomplished is one employee has obtained their master's, another employee just completed their bachelor's and has enrolled in the master's program. So we're proud of being able to try to get more emphasis on that as they grow in career profession. Just a couple of the highlights from the 2019 events. Safety Saturday, which is held at the Ingalls parking lot area in May. We reached approximately 1,000 people during that event. Fire prevention activities taking place in the schools, 640 students. Deck the trees. We assisted in raising $33,638 for Swananoa Valley Christian Ministry for the heating assistance. We had the largest dollar amount, they won't tell you the dollar amount, contribution to that on donations, and we came in second as far as the design goes. So a lot of work and effort went into that. With CPR training, we've taught approximately 100 members in the Black Mountain community. One of the things that we started pursuing upon the arrival here was how do we build teams and how do we build continuity. Working with all the department heads, police department especially, how do we join forces and how do we have force multipliers. One of the things that we've done with our force multiplier of adding extra staffing is our staff now assist with their SRT team in response. What we do is give them personnel that's dedicated specifically for the treatment if they become injured while performing an SRT mission. But as you can see from some of these photographs, it's a day in and day out task of working with each other. We appreciate the effort that is provided by the police department as well to accomplish that. Some of the members that we lost that faced her this year, Jerry Atkins and Bob Watson from our volunteer side. I would be remiss if we didn't recognize them for their dedicated service to the department through a number of years. And that's all I have. Any questions from you from the board? Thank you.
Scotty,
Yes, sir.
just want to just mention this. This whole board hears a lot from residents who live in this town and outside this town. And I can tell you that I have heard nothing but praise and appreciation for the way and the direction the fire department's going in. You're a good man and team builder, and we appreciate you and all the fire department.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Urban Forestry Commission.
Good evening, I'm Sheridan Hill. We have a really short video just to highlight some of what we did, and you have a written report there. Angela, hit it.
And trees grow strong, and trees sway with the wind.
I went to Black Mountain Elementary School and taught the kids a little bit about trees and tree care, and they were so cute singing this song about trees, so we just led off with it.
As they reach for the sky, and fallen trees still feed the seed they cast before they die.
These are pictures from our one of our 2 tree giveaways that we did. We had people stuffing them in their cars any way they could take them. So it was about 50 people came, and this was just our first year of doing the tree giveaways. We have them watch a demonstration of tree care and proper planting. And did you know you're supposed to unravel the roots before you put the tree in the ground. So there are always native species that we give away and talk to people about the importance of the native species and what they bring. As you know, trees are a huge part of preventing flooding, especially here in the valley. I attended the climate change event that the Asheville Greenworks held. Trees, of course, help us not have urban heat islands, purify the air. Of course, their habitat. And they calm the nervous system. It's been shown that children walking by trees are more calm than children walking by just urban environment without the trees. So we were very excited this was such a success, and we're going to continue giving the trees away. We partnered with Asheville Greenworks to get local trees at a discount so we could wisely use our very small budget from the town. And I'd just like to encourage people to think about what would the valley be like if we didn't have trees, how long it takes to grow a 40-foot tree. If you cut down 50, 40-foot trees and you plant back 10 saplings, it doesn't really equate in terms of your urban forestry canopy. Our forests take a long time to grow and prevent flooding. Of course, we wouldn't have the mushrooms and a lot of what we do have here in the valley without the trees. And the old trees, I'd just like to speak to the fact that the old trees really have more value for the environment and for our air and for prevention of flooding. This is the one behind the police station that I would wish could be protected a little better, and that's the Christ Mount Dawn Redwood. So the details are in the report. We also, I didn't have a chance to put in the video, but we also did the first tree canopy study, and we did that by, you use a computer program and you get the overview of the town and you estimate, okay, we have this much pavement, this much trees, this much structure. So we did conduct the first tree canopy study, and that will give us a baseline to perhaps begin better gauging the loss of trees here in the valley. Just two really quick things, and oh yeah, also the urban forestry is, we work with the Parks and Rec and Jamie to make sure that we requalify each year for the Tree City status, and we're in our 14th year of qualifying for Tree City status. We would love to have a liaison on the Board of Aldermen, and so we would love to know, I would love to know if there's anybody on the board that would just be a liaison, wouldn't bother you but a few times a year for urban forestry. And we do really need volunteers for those who might be seeing this on TV. Were there any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. All right, Josh, consent agenda.
Item A is your adoption of minutes. This would be the minutes of the November 4th, 2019 agenda and regular session, November 26th, 2019 special called and closed session, December 5th, 2019 agenda and closed session, December 9th, 2019 regular session, and December 12th, 2019 special called meeting. Item B is a call for a public hearing for a rezoning of portions of Flat Creek Road and Montreat Road from suburban residential SR2, this is residential 2 units an acre, to town residential TR4, which would be residential 4 units an acre, of the following addresses. There's a handful of those for item B. Item C is also a call for public hearing for rezoning of 1068 Old US Highway 70 from Office and Institutional OI6 to Highway Business HB8. Item D, a call for public hearing as well for a rezoning for 1114 Montreat Road from SR2, 2 units an acre residential, suburban residential, to UR8, urban residential. This is 8 units an acre. That'll be your consent agenda.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve items A through D?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Approved 4-0. And citizen comments, I don't have anybody signed up. Unfinished business is none. New business. We had 3, we now only have 2 applicants for the Historic Preservation Commission, and looking for someone to nominate someone.
I would like to nominate Jim Fuller.
All right, we have a nomination, and I need a motion to appoint Jim Fuller.
Is that to which term?
It'll be the first full term. Both those 2 are full terms. Well, wait, it says an unexpired term.
Yes, sir.
So which one, Maggie? One unexpired and one ending June 30th, 2020.
Let's just go with the first one, the
Okay.
unexpired term.
2020.
All right. Motion we have to for James Fuller to do the unexpired term ending June 30th, 2020. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Have one more, and it'll be for the term ending in 2020. 2022, yes.
I'd like to nominate Ron Collins for the term ending in June 30th, 2022.
Okay, have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0. Urban Forestry, we have one unexpired term ending June 30th, 2020. Can I have a motion, nomination?
Nominate Rod Allen for that unexpired term ending June 30th, 2020.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next we have an ordinance to adopt Title VI plan.
I'm going to let Miss Jennifer Tipton come up and do a little synopsis of this, but really what this is something we need to be able to continue to go after grant funding, federal grant funding, state grant funding. This is a plan we need in place, really, which hold us accountable to make sure we're not doing any kind of unlawful discrimination or anything like that against handicapped folks or anybody else.
Good evening. So as Josh stated, the Title VI plan is to help prevent against discrimination where applicable. This can fall under grants, requests for proposals, requests for qualifications that we send out. And the Title VI plan just ensures that we're not violating any of those rights. So currently we do not have a Title VI plan. So this would enable us to create a Title VI plan, as well as any complaint forms, documentation, who would receive those complaint forms, and how that would be handled. So the ordinance you have is just to adopt that Title VI plan, and then I think it also sets out that I believe it's Jessica would be the responsible party, if I'm correct on that.
That's right.
Yeah. I really don't have much more on that.
I would add that in your packet there's an ordinance, but if you look at the Title VI plan, it doesn't have a complaint form attached. So at your spots, I think there's a revised form for the ordinance that adds at the end that the planning director is directed to create those complaint forms.
Okay. Need a motion to approve ordinance number 0-20-02 to adopt the Title VI plan for the town of Black Mountain?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Number D is the NC Highway sidewalk construction contract approval. And I think Josh is want to pull that off.
Yeah, that's correct. I may let Attorney Sneed help on this one, but we did speak with Mr. Reagan, and he is requesting that we table this and give him a month to decide how he wants to proceed with the construction contract.
I would, if we can do that, I would encourage it, because I talked with Sykes this morning, and he said he'd like more time because he'd like to think through and come up. As the board knows, he would like to have brick. That's there's $60-some thousand in cost in putting it in. Jamie's concerned because once it's in, it's a higher maintenance cost. And talked about all those with Sykes this morning, and he said he would like to have time to look at what's proposed, come back with some alternate ideas, and those could range anywhere from they will simply fund the difference down to let us do just certain artistic insets for brick, and possibly finding a way to help fund maintenance over time. But he said he just needed a month to come up with those proposals.
Motion to table the sidewalk construction contract approval to the February meeting.
Okay, motion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Vance Avenue traffic.
So speaking with you at the agenda meeting, I talked to you briefly about Vance Avenue traffic, and there had been a meeting with the, I guess the neighborhood group, if you will, with the chief of police and Lieutenant Austin. They are requesting some stop signs be installed, specifically more stop signs at Vance and Terry Estates intersection, also at the intersections of Vance and Bridge and Terry Estates and Bridge. Speaking with Public Works Director, we feel it's a good idea to also have our traffic engineer take a look at it. It's minimal cost. That protects us if something happens. If someone were to run a stop sign, we've got that backup data that shows that those stop signs are okay to be placed where we're going to be placing them. But that minimal cost is probably going to be $500 to $800. It shouldn't be very expensive to have him review that. But this would help with, I think the neighborhood group does feel good about installing those stop signs, helping with the speeders through that area.
Ron, do we approve and then?
I think that all you have to do is, I don't even think it takes much a formal resolution, because that's probably within Josh's ability to spend money. I think he just wants the direction of the board.
Okay. Need a motion?
Well, just
A motion that the board consent approve his proceeding with the engineering study.
so moved.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. All right. Traffic impact analysis ordinance. Josh?
I'll call Miss Jennifer Tipton up to give some information on this, but this is something that's gone through the planning board, and what you have before you is an ordinance to create the town. We will now be requiring developers to do a TIA or a traffic impact analysis on certain size projects. I think 798 trips is what will trigger that to be into effect, and I will let Jennifer tell you a little more about it.
Happens all the time. Good evening again. So in going through our ordinance and looking at some development projects that we had, it came to our attention that the traffic impact analysis language never made it over in the 2010 ordinance update. So we felt it important to add that back in. So after going to planning board a couple of times, they did finally settle on development projects creating 798 trips a day would trigger a traffic impact analysis. And that is currently only on town roads, as DOT roads, that's required through DOT. The traffic impact analysis would be reviewed by town staff. I think it specifically states the planning director, and then would be brought to the Board of Aldermen to vote on any improvements that might be recommended in the study if they're required. So these requirements would be made at the expense of the developer, and any improvements required would be owned by the town. That's why you all would have to end up voting on them. But all of that should be laid out in the ordinance before you.
So, are we ready for questions?
No, we need
Are you
to
still
open the public
working?
hearing first.
We're still doing that.
I mean, if you have questions of me, I'll be happy to answer any.
Motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the ordinance and the 798 daily trips, that is determined using the most recent edition of the Trip General Manual published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers. And so what does a 798 daily trip development kind of look like?
It'd be 75 lots.
And that cost to developers is around 10,000 currently for a TIA for 75 lots.
To 75 lots, and those lots are zoned
It'd be
gonna be
residential lots. Currently.
75 residences.
Correct.
Yes.
So if it was denser, I mean, whatever it is, it could be, if it was a condominium,
The impact analysis may be a little more expensive
but it's still would be 75
or more.
It would be 75 condominium units, 75 houses, 75 whatever.
It's listed as 75 lots. So if it were 75 lots or more, that's going to trigger a traffic impact
Well, what if
analysis.
it's a condominium or townhome or whatever?
My hope that would be 75 units would trigger it because that's still going to be would be very similar
Yeah.
trip generators.
Yeah. The manual just says lots, so that's how we based it off of.
Should we
But
clarify
we
that?
we can definitely clarify it.
Ron, what would your thought be? It seems like to me it should be.
I think residential units might be a good term to use. Of course, commercial development's a different animal, but residential developments, single-family units would probably be a good term to describe it. It would cover condos, townhomes, apartment buildings.
So what about commercial?
That I don't know.
So, in the discussions that came up, because this was mainly for town roads versus DOT roads, which is where the majority of your commercial actually is, and DOT has their own requirements for traffic impact analysis. So the planning board didn't feel it necessary to create an additional traffic impact analysis on DOT roads for what they have. So commercial, they're going to get hit regardless through DOT.
Is it roundabouts? Is it a similar, if somebody's putting up a piece of commercial property, are the DOT requirements somewhat similar?
They have a trip generation, and I think it's pretty high level. It's like 3,000 trips per day before it triggers it. And the commercial activity, they would look at that activity, what kind of trips it would generate. You know, you have a plant that covers 10 acres and hires 5 people, they're going to ignore you. But they won't ignore you if you're going to have 60 trucks coming in every day, that kind of thing.
Which they're going to follow that trip that's what they're going to follow that same manual.
Right.
For this.
Right. Okay.
Any more questions? Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Allow the public to speak.
Yes. Anybody wish to speak in any way? Motion.
Well, I just wondered if they...
You need to step up here, sir.
Relating to the Vance Street traffic, I'm sure you've considered it, but...
That's a different matter.
This
is the public.
What are we talking about?
This is a public hearing.
This is a public hearing on this subject here only. Anyone else? Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion to adopt the statement of consistency as presented or amended.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt ordinance O-20-01.
Make a motion to adopt the ordinance with residential units substituted for lots where appropriate.
Have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. All right. Okay, communication from staff.
I have nothing more for the board tonight.
Josh?
I've got a few things to update you on, just to bring you up to speed on some of the projects. First, I'll say we will be observing Martin Luther King Jr. holiday this coming Monday, January 20th, so town offices will be closed a week from today. An update on our River Rock Greenway project. So we've been dealing with our engineers on that project. We are hopeful, according to their schedule, that we will be ready to start construction in the budget year of 2021, probably July. With that being said, we are going to need to talk about, during budget time, some more of our match money. We currently have about $740,000 allocated to this project for the match. That includes the $400,000 from Buncombe County. We will still need about another $460,000 for that match. We are optimistic that we can go after some more grant funds through a state trails program and some other organizations. Not sure if we'll be fortunate enough to get any of that funding, but we will sure try as hard as possible. But that is something we'll need to talk about in the upcoming months for sure.
Josh, let me ask you about that, because we're going to start, and this is construction on the very first, so to sort of refresh my memory, we have, what, about the total amount of Greenway funding that's been approved is about $5 million?
Correct, and we're going after another $1 million.
It's going, and so that is to still be, oh, and that's to, is that for this particular?
That is.
We never funded this, the Riverwalk portion, the part we're trying to address first.
Yes, but we've got it all now lumped into one project. It was two separate projects, but we lumped it all together now as one project, which would be from Ole Guacamole's all the way to Veterans Park, or to, Vance Avenue.
And I guess I'm confused about the amount of match money, because this is a project that's going to take some years.
Correct.
And we're not going to start any construction until budget year 2021.
That's correct.
Because of just the process that you have to go through with these grant monies.
That's right.
So, do we need, and we have $700 and some thousand already.
$740, correct.
And this is a 20% match.
Correct.
And so to start construction in 2020, do we have sufficient cash to start in 2021?
I think we do. I mean, we'll put another 160 in, which would get us to what? I'm not doing math on the fly, but 740 plus 160.
We need roughly $1 million. What's 20% of it?
We need about 1.2.
1.2?
Yep. So as long as we're allocating that, I mean, we'll be fine to start construction. The question is going to be how long is that going to take? And I think we don't know yet. I mean,
Well, we should know, but I mean, we should know.
We'll know as we get closer.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I would think the engineers could, assuming we start.
Right.
The engineers should be able to give us a pretty good idea of what I mean, it could be wrong, it's construction.
And I think some of that right now is just the fact that, we haven't been given approval we haven't got the final design for 79 or the railroad.
Right.
We don't know exactly what that's going to look like or how long that's going to take to do.
But what we're starting on doesn't pertain to me. What we're starting on is going from the hotel back toward Veterans Park.
We can, sure.
Well, we can. I thought that's what we agreed to do. We wanted to do that first,
wow.
so that we would connect. We would connect from downtown over to Veterans Park.
Maybe you did. I'm not recalling that conversation, but we sure can do that.
Does anybody else recall that conversation? I certainly had it.
It may have been before I was here. I'm not sure, but
Jessica's not here.
Yeah. But we sure can do that.
Well, it's because it's connectivity. It's because we're going from downtown. That was actually some of the idea of putting in the sidewalk up Black Mountain Avenue.
Right.
And with a new hotel there, is connecting over to Veterans Park, so that, and with the exchange coming in and some sidewalks there as well, that you would have a connection from basically Blue Ridge Road to downtown.
That's correct.
And that's where we started. And I know I've had that discussion with Jessica, and that's why we were focusing on that particular leg, is because it had more impact than, I mean, it all has good impact. But you've got, at that point in time, we didn't know we could go what the DOT was going to tell us about number 9.
Right.
And so that was the issue. There was no telling how long that was going to take.
Right. Yeah, that's completely fine to do that section.
Well, I mean, that's what I thought, and I think it's a good thing if that's not something that the entire board is in agreement on. I mean, we need to talk about it, maybe not now.
Sure.
We need to revisit it, but that was the discussion that I had more than once with, and maybe it wasn't you, maybe it was Matt and Jessica, when we started, because I guess we started
well, you started this project when I was here.
No, but we added the additional $1 million to it.
Yes.
And we did that before.
That's correct. You sure did.
It seems like I recall something about the construction part when it changed over to one project. And I remember Jessica saying something, but I can't recall what.
Right. Well, we just need, if we could, but maybe next board meeting, let's just make sure that everybody's on the same page. I'm not saying that's what we agreed to do. I know I certainly had more than 1 or 2 conversations about it, and I thought we had it in board meeting. If we haven't, I think we need to be in agreement. I think that's it. I think that's worth thinking about, that being the first leg that we do, and focusing on it and getting it done. And I shouldn't say I know anything at this point, but I'm pretty sure that discussion was had with Jessica, and I would like to think it's already happened with the engineers, but it doesn't sound like it.
I don't know that it has.
But could we get that on the agenda for a report and bring it up to date and see if we can make that happen, assuming that's good with the rest of the board?
I don't recall that conversation, so apparently there's one-on-one and things that goes along. But in my discussions with Jessica over the last couple of years on this project, a lot of them have this as driven by the order in which things must happen to satisfy the grant funding. So that basically means that, if I understand it correctly, the thing comes together in such a way that by the time you're ready to start construction, you're ready to start construction along the line you want to.
That's what, I remember that discussion,
First it's funding, then it's design, and you can't get out of order, you can't go get your easements before you cut your design.
Right.
And because of that, you end up with a finished design package, and it's almost irrelevant where you start construction then.
Right.
There may have been discussion, like you said, what would be the higher impact perhaps?
Right, and I do remember that discussion, and I also remember, whether it's right or wrong, or whether I remember correctly, that you can be doing construction in a couple of places. You got the money. Just depends on if you got the match money to go with it and so forth. But you don't have to combine it just to going to do this one and that one. You could be working on 2 or 3 places if you can make that happen.
If the economy stays the way it is, I guess I've got a feeling that a large part of that is going to be when you get the availability of the construction.
Right.
Okay.
All right, and so the next one would be our update of our automatic meter reads. So we're getting those purchased. We're actually going through now with Mueller Systems on getting the infrastructure in place, which was the repeater towers and the wireless communication. We're in the process right now of picking those locations and getting that part going. So that is ongoing. We'll remind you that we have our Black Mountain Comprehensive Plan update kickoff Monday, January 27th at 6 o'clock here at Town Hall. And then our Blue Ridge Road small area plan, we hope to have that in front of this board next month in February. And that is enough from me.
All right. Communication from the board. All right, I've got one little clarification. It seems to be, I've heard it a couple times, been stated that our representatives were not contacted when we talked to them about moving the election to 2020. That's just not true. Every single one of our representatives in this area will contact the senators and the House, and I have facts to back that statement up. So, just want to clarify that one point. And with that, and the reason I'm saying that now is because I'd like a motion to enter into closed session to discuss personnel matters as permitted in NCGS 143.318.11A6.
So moved.
All in favor?